You just want me to kick it off?
No, I appreciate folks logging on this morning. It's a Friday morning and it's going to be beautifully hot outside today. So stay cool inside. Let's do some learning together. I think we'll get a lot from Robbie.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to jump in today and we're going to look at Google Classroom. Today's really going to be kind of that 100-foot overview of Classroom, where we're going to get you enough to be dangerous with it, and then let you kind of take it and run from there. Beyond today, I want you to know that I'm always a resource. Please reach out to me and I'll make sure that you have my email address. And if not, just email Tiffany and she'll get you in touch with me too. So I'm always happy to help as you're jumping into Google Classroom. So today we're going to be creating a classroom. So if you could just go to classroom.google.com, I'm going to do a lot of just me showing you something and then giving you time to try it out as well. And if it's your very first time going to Google Classroom, if you want to make sure when you get in there that you say, I'm a teacher, that first step is going to really help you out, because if we don't do that, then we have to go change your account to be able to create classes. And I'm just kind of looking at my view of everyone who's in here. By show of hands, those of you who have your screens on, how many of you are using Classroom or have used it at all? Not much. Okay, that's great. I mean, that's why we're in today, is so we can make sure we can all get comfortable with Classroom. Classroom has grown substantially, and I think it's going to continue to grow. Google's roadmap has Classroom growing even more and more this school year, especially amidst the pandemic here. So I'll show you the features that are there today, and know that Google is growing this product, it seems like on a weekly basis right now. But if you're inside of Google Classroom, you should see this plus button here. And this plus button is the ability for you to either join a class or create a class. And today we're going to create a class in here. So I'm hoping that you can kind of have two windows, one with my screen showing and then one next to it that is your Google Classroom window, so we can kind of work off of each other. When you click on create a class, it's going to ask you to name your class, and then you can put in any other of those content areas, section, subject, or room, but the name is the only required content that you need to have in there. So whether you want to name this your last name or what subject you teach, maybe this is your Algebra 1 course, whatever this is, you can go in and name your course. And if you want to have section, subject, and room, you're welcome to do that. For today, I'm just going to have the class name. This is something you can always come back and modify, and I'll show you where we can modify those settings as well. So once you have a name at minimum, then you can go ahead and click on create. Now the thing to know about Google Classroom is you can have as many of these as you want. So I see teachers and club sponsors all the time creating classrooms for everything that they help support. They might have one. I have football teams who have them and keep all of their playbooks and everything digitally in a location. I have club sponsors who want to keep all their information and announcements for all their students in one spot. They use Google Classroom for that, as well as all the pieces that we can do in the classroom as well. So once you have a course created, I'm going to give you a little tour of this course. In the course, the thing that we need right away with our students is this class code. A class code is how your students are going to connect into your class. You can also enroll them in, but by using the class code when you're in person with them, or whether you're on a Zoom call or however you're connecting with them, you can click on that little square button next to it. It'll make it a little larger. And when they go to classroom.google.com and click on plus, they can click on join and type in that code. That code is unique to your course, and anytime they type that in, that will put them in as a student in your course. Across the top, we have these 4 different sections of our course, but the other one that's also available is this gear icon that's right here. This gear is actually your course settings. So when I said that we could go in and modify that class name or any of those other pieces, we can come in and modify those at any time by clicking on that gear. Likewise, with our class code, we can also go in and we can reset that class code. For some reason, maybe somebody shared a class code to your football page or whatever page you have going on. You can reset it and it will redo what that unique alphanumeric digits are for your course. You just click on reset and it will put a brand new one in for your whole class. I've rarely seen the need to go in and reset your course class code, but that is a feature that they've put out there now. Then this is also giving you some setting changes that you can add to your class. By default, it's set up to where in the stream, which is kind of the announcement section we'll look at here in a second, by default, students can post into that stream and comment. I have a number of teachers who prefer that students can only comment in here. They don't want students starting their own discussions. But some classes I've seen it work really positive where we have students having the ability to post in there as well, because then a student might be working on a homework assignment and they can go into the stream and post a question, say, I'm stuck on how we do this. And then it relies on them having the class help them out as well. That is a choice for you as the instructor of the class, whether you want them to post announcements or just comment. Because you can also have like a help area comment section where they could just be commenting there as well. And then likewise, you can also say only teachers can post or comment. So depending on the course and how you might want to run things, you have some choices here. And then classwork on stream. So what this means, stream is kind of this flow, and we'll look at this in a second. But the classwork on stream is always going to be condensed, which means they'd have to click into it to see. I recommend this, and I'll show you why here in a little bit once we get into our stream, mainly because of how much screen real estate it takes up. So we want to make sure that we're taking up as little screen real estate as possible when our students are in there, so they can just see more content. And then if we scroll down, we can see in the grading section of our settings that we have, these are the default settings that are set up in Weeping Water here. And so we can see here that our overall grade calculation, there's no overall grade. This is good because sometimes Classroom isn't your only method of grading. You're doing other in-class assignments that aren't showing up in Classroom. And we get this confusion that happens with students. So sometimes they'll say, well, in Classroom it says, you know, I've got 85 points out of my total 150. And you're like, well, you also have other assignments that are in there. So they get confused with the grades. What this no overall grade is really doing is it's just still showing them their individual grades, but it's not saying as a whole class or your whole grade is this grade right now, because they don't want to confuse it with the student information system that's happening.
Hey, Robbie.
Yeah.
Quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some of that confusion happen this last year during our closure with kids in Canvas versus Power School.
Yeah.
Would your recommendation be that I hate to even suggest this because I think that there's some benefit of having a running grade in Google Classroom, but would it be best probably just to keep the two separate and say our grades are going to be in Power School, our assignments are going to be in Google Classroom, so that we don't run into that confusion, because our Google grades don't feed into Power School right now, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I would recommend, is keeping them two separate entities. You'll have to enter the grades into Power School manually, but otherwise you do run into that confusion. And whether it's Google Classroom or any other learning management system, I see that confusion happening all the time.
Right.
So I would keep them separate.
Is there a way for us on the administrative side to disable that feature so that staff don't have to worry about that setting?
I will look into that.
Okay.
Just to double check. So
Okay.
I'm making a note to see if we can lock that setting at all or not. I'll look into it and let you know. Okay, so these are the settings that we can look at. And remember, you can always come back to these settings as well. I'm going to click close my settings. In the upper left-hand corner, there's the X button to close these. So now we have 4 different areas across the top. The stream is the one that the settings we're all talking about. The stream is kind of that flow of what's happening in your class. And I'm going to actually jump into a different class that I have. So to do that, you'll see I clicked on these 3 lines and it opens up all the classes that I have. I'm going to go down to my little demo class here, just because I've started adding some people into the class. But in here, we can see stream, classwork, people, and grades. The stream is a flow of everything that's happening in your class. Think of this as almost like that Facebook style feed of what's happening in class. Most times what I see teachers doing is putting in their announcements in here at first, you know, a welcome to class type of an announcement. And when you go into these announcements, you can go in at any time and add in links to files. Maybe you have a video you want them to watch, or something that's in your Google Drive you want to share with them. You know, here's an upcoming calendar of what's happening this week. Here's some lesson plans, you know, lessons that are coming up. You can add those in just as a discussion item. These are nice because this is really just that information giving. This is not an assignment section yet. This is just simply giving out information. In this, if you have multiple classes, so maybe you have multiple Algebra 1 courses or multiple sections of something, and you want to put this out on all of them, you can click a checkbox into which classes you want to get this exact same announcement as well. So you don't have to go like duplicate efforts as you're building content. And then the other thing that's pretty unique is you have the ability here, especially once you have students enrolled in your class, you can put out announcements to individual students or groups of students. So in here we see that we have, you really can kind of work smarter in this area here, posting to multiple classes and then posting to certain students. I don't have any students who have accepted into this course yet, but if they did, they would show up as individual checkboxes down here. With all posts, like an announcement or an assignment, you can either post them right away or you can schedule them out. I know a lot of teachers who like to build, you know, their announcements for the week or the next couple weeks, and they just want to schedule it out so they don't have to remember, oh, on Friday or Monday morning at 8 o'clock, I have a new welcome message I want to go out. I can click on schedule and pick the day and time that that's going to go out. And now it's scheduled and it's ready to go. Where it will show me as a teacher in case I say, oh wait, I was gonna have that go out on Monday, but I don't want it to go out on Monday now. It shows them in these saved announcements where I can always go back, modify it, and reschedule when it's gonna go out or modify the content of it. The other nice thing that you'll see in this stream, and your students will really start to use this, I really think of this as that starting to help them understand that executive functioning side of Google, is when in this stream, as assignments are created, and as I start to show you some assignments today, they will have an upcoming assignments list that generates for that class. This upcoming assignments is items that are due within the week. So if they can start to see, oh, I've got this assignment in this class that I need to work on, that'll always show up in this upcoming section of the stream. The stream is chronological. So as you add content, it just continues to make a flow that they can scroll through. This is where that whole idea of if the students can post versus not post comes into play too, because your stream just gets longer and longer the more posts that are in here. Just think of it as any social media feed, a Twitter or Facebook feed that you're kind of scrolling through. When did they make that announcement or when did they share that file? You kind of have to scroll through to see them. So the stream is really nice to have. It really does help. I'm actually going to post this right now so we can see it in my stream. And so now I have a post that's here. If I put in another post, you'll see that it just starts to put things in chronologically here. Anybody can add comments. A lot of times in the beginning of the year, I will put some kind of a welcome message to class and have them comment or add some discussion to this, just to start getting everyone's voice in the room. So we can think of our stream as a way to interact with our students as well. And it keeps all of the stream content in there at all times. And you know who did it because they're logged into Google as they've done it. So Stream is kind of that main landing page that you go to every time you log into your classroom. The part where we start to add assignments is Classwork, but I'm going to skip that for now to show you the People section. People is a pretty powerful section because it shows you a few things. First off, it shows you who the teachers in the course are, and you'll notice that you don't have to just have one teacher. If you have a co-teacher, if you have a para, if you have somebody you want to have teaching rights into this course on, you can do this. A lot of times I'll see departments who will make each other teachers for all of their courses so they can share assignments or share an assessment that they create. They can post it to everyone's class. So you can work in a teaming effort in that capacity. So you can add multiple teachers, and here's where you can add individual students as well. So instead of them typing in the code, you can just take your roster and start typing in their names and add them in as a student in the class. What this will do is not automatically add them. It will send them an email invitation to the course. Once they've accepted that email invitation, then they'll be added in. So they still have that kind of layer of they have to accept it. And this is something usually I do on the first day of class with students. I have them all go in, whether they use this code here and they type it in, or I go and invite them and just say, hey, make sure you accept this. The other part that is powerful once they've accepted is there's the ability to add in a guardian email address. This guardian email address will send an email to their guardian once a week with what's been happening in class. It doesn't show them their assignments or there we go. So we're in. So I can email my student, and it looks like, okay, Guardian's not turned on right now. So if we want that, that's something as a district we'll have to turn on if we want that Guardian piece, Tiffany. Because that can be pretty powerful. So from here right now, I can go in and I can email the student. Making a note here. Okay. So if you have a student that you want to connect with and you're right inside your classroom, instead of opening up email, you can do it straight from the student tab. And you can go in. This opens up your Gmail and then has an email directly ready to send right to that user. Sometimes you'll want to email your whole class. So you can always go on and click the checkbox on the top here, and then you can email your entire class from here. And this will create an email and just have all of them in the to section. Actually, it's in the blind carbon copy section. So the people tab can be really helpful here, showing us all of our teachers in the class and the students in the class. Remember, teachers all have the access in this course to be able to add content, to be able to do any of the commenting and post assignments to the class as well. So whoever you give that teacher right to, just know that they have a little bit of extra functionality inside your course. But it can be really nice to have those co-teachers or teams that you can share content with as well. So we've looked at Stream and we've looked at People. Now we're going to go to the Classwork tab. Under Classwork, this is where the bulk of the instruction happens inside of Classroom. So in Stream, we can post discussion, we can post videos, maybe it's an instructional video we created, but in Classwork, this is where we really start assigning things to our students. Before we start assigning, I want to show you a couple features that Google has built in straight to Classroom here. By default, when you create a new class, you have a folder that's been created for your class inside of Google Drive. You also have a calendar that's been created inside of Google Calendar for you. So if I go to my calendar here, I'm gonna refresh because I should have a couple. So now I have 2 Google Classroom courses that have calendars that have been created. Here's my demo class and here's my Algebra 1 class. As I start to add assignments to my classwork, those are going to show up on the calendar. And that calendar now is going to be not just on my calendar, all the students in the class will have that calendar as well. So what this is doing is this is helping our students understand that if they go to Google Calendar and they have all their teachers using Classroom, they should see all the assignment due dates in that calendar as long as they have those calendars turned on. So it really is a great feature to help our students understand, well, did you look at Google Calendar? It showed that today's due date was, it was due today. They should see that right in Google Calendar. It also is helping students to kind of think about the organization of documents and the tools that they can use. So in Google Drive, it's creating a Drive folder. So if this is your first time using Classroom, if you go into your Drive on drive.google.com, there should be a folder now called Classroom, and this will be all of your classes content. So as you start to add content into your folder, you have access to this folder, but so do all your students. So they can go in and say, where was that rubric for the assignment that I was going to use? Where is that document that she referenced when I was learning? They will have this folder that's in here of all the content that you're sharing. And you don't have to put it in Classroom for it to be in this folder. You could come in and bring in any document into this folder as well, because now you and your students have this folder. So those are some nice features that Google has built in, and really it's helping our students to understand some of those independent pieces that they can be doing. They can go to Google Calendar now and see. For my older students, I always recommend putting their Google Calendar on their phone so they can just open up their phone and see what to do. They can go into Google Drive. It helps them understand that Google Drive piece. The last piece that Google most recently put in here is Google Meet. This is Google's video chatting service. This is by default, only the teacher can set this up and see this inside of Google Classroom. But what Google Meet will do is it will create a Google Meet link. This is very similar to using Zoom. It creates a link that is always used for your class. So if I clicked on Meet and I go back to my stream, this link is now here at all times. So if I say we're gonna have class, go to our Meet room, it'll bring them into our Meet room here. Now the teacher has to be in that Meet room for it to be able to work. But just know that that is a new feature that they've just added. I think they're still kind of working out a few kinks of it, but it is working pretty solid to have Meet built right into Classroom. Now I've shared a lot in the last 23 minutes here. Before I start adding assignments, are there any questions so far about the content that I've shared? And as you've all figured this out, wait time online is like the worst. Okay, we're gonna jump into Classwork then. So in Classwork, we see this create button here that really helps us guide everything that we can create as an assignment. So if I click on create, we're gonna see that I have 4 content pieces that I can create. And I also have the ability to create a new topic or reuse a post. I'm going to start with topics just so we can kind of look at the organization. Now, I've been using learning management systems and training on learning management systems, everything from Canvas to Angel to Moodle, all these things. And I always think of organization as the key to helping our students to be able to navigate to where they need to be. So I always start with topics when I do this kind of work. And I do that because I want my students to know exactly where to go. Now, I could just start creating assignments and having them all under one big flow, but I want there to be some rhyme or reason to this. So I can go in and I can create a topic. What this is doing is almost like a folder structure for assignments. Now, some teachers look at this and say, I want there to be 2 topics. I want there to be, daily work and tests. Maybe that's my 2 topics. And if that's how you want to organize it, great. Some teachers say, I'm more of a unit-based classroom where I need everything under unit 1 to be there and then unit 2, or maybe you're topic-based. It's all how you want to organize it. So today I'm just going to set mine up and I'm going to make just units. So I'm going to add in a couple units, my first couple units for the year here. So now I can see that I have unit 1 and unit 2. So I can always tell my students, remember that assignment was back in unit 1, and they can go back and see that assignment that's there. But if you do it, there are so many other ways you can organize your content. Some do it by week and have each topic be the days of that week. They might say, you know, July 20th to July 25th, and that's their topic name. This does help as we start to organize our content though. So I'm going to look in here, and the first one I'm going to look at is question, because there's not a lot to look at when it comes to question. A question is simply that. I can go in and I can ask a question that I want my students to look at. This is one I see used least, honestly. So we go in and we have a question where I just need a quick, it's a one question, and they can either do a short answer or a multiple choice. Sometimes this is a check for understanding type of a piece. Maybe it's talking and typing is not my strength. So now I just create a quick question. They read chapter 1 in their book, respond to chapter 1 with one question that stood out as they were reading through chapter 1. I'm going to have them do a short answer. I can add in other materials. Maybe it was a question about a PDF that I wanted them to look at. I can add in that file, that PDF that I want them to look at. Maybe I can put in a math equation that they need to work through, and I have a picture of it. I can bring that in from my Google Drive. Then I can go in and say, okay, first off, who's this for? This is for the class I'm in, my demo class. And here's where I can start to pick, is it all students? Maybe I have a student on an IEP who might need a different resource every once in a while. I can just give them that resource. Nobody else sees it unless that student is the only one who would see it. I can say how many points it's going to be worth. And remember, this is inside of Classroom, not feeding to your learning or to your grade book. Or I can also say it's ungraded. You know, maybe it's just a discussion piece. I can go in and decide, I'm going to make this a 10-point assignment that is due on Monday. You'll see here the due dates show up, July 20th, and I can choose a time. So if I have a direct class time to do when they walk in first hour, I can set that up. And then I can say, where is this going to go? Well, this is under unit 1. So I'm going to say that's the topic I want to use. You'll also notice that you have create topic in here. So you can click on create topic, and that'll allow you to make a brand new topic. If like, oh, I didn't create a topic for discussion questions or whatever you want to use, you can always create a new one, and it'll just ask you to type that in. And then on a question, you have two choices. Can students reply to each other? So in this case, maybe they're asking a question and a student can say, well, I really thought this. So they could reply to each other if you wanted. And can a student edit their answer? So they type one thing and go in and edit. By default, that's always off, because sometimes we'll see those students who will like type in something goofy and try and get it out there before the teacher sees it. Just going to warn you, our fire alarm's starting to go off because they're installing fire alarms here. So if you hear the fire alarm, I'm not getting up and leaving, but it might be loud for a second here. Okay, so I'm going to keep this so students can edit the answer is turned off, because I don't want them to go back and change it. Once they post, they post. Now I can ask it right away, or remember, I can also schedule this. But right now, I'm going to ask it right away. So this is going to show up. Here's the question that's been posted. You'll also see that it's now in the stream. So in the stream, we have the ability to see everything that's happened in our class. And so now we see that question that's there. And we should, let me make sure it went through here. There you go. So I go to my calendar just to double check, and there's my question. Because I didn't give it an exact time, it's putting it at the top of here, but it's saying, hey, you have a question that's due in this class. So as the student, they can go in and say, oh, I do have a question. And instead of even having to go to Classroom, they can just click on this link and it will open it right up for them so they can start working on it. So really, I think this is really with the student in mind here is how this is working out. Okay, back to my class, and I'm going to look at creating an assignment. I really like how assignments work inside of Google Classroom, especially when you're in this whole Google ecosystem. The first thing you want to do is give your students or give the assignment a title. And then I can go in and I can put in instructions. Now it says optional in this time of a lot of remote learning happening. I don't know if we should consider it optional, but put in as detailed instructions as possible. When I put these in, I'm just gonna have them use the attached document to help them out. I would type much better description than that. But I can go in and I can add things. Now I want to add in an assignment that I have in Google Drive. It's a document that I want them to use. And it's this autobiography assignment that I want them to use. Now this is what I really like. And the first time you're in Google Classroom, it's going to walk you through this. But what we can do is I want my students to use this Google Doc that I created. And it has all the instructions in that Google Doc. But I don't want them just to view this document. In this case, I want them to each have their own copy of this document. So if I click on this make a copy for each student, when my student goes and looks at this assignment and they open it up inside of Google, it's going to make a copy of this assignment for them. So this is really kind of, I don't like to call them worksheets, but this is really taking it so now they have their own Google Doc that they can use. So I can go in and make them have a copy for each student. You'll see the other choices that are here. Students can view file. So maybe you have a rubric or an overall document you just want them to see and view. You can give them that here. This one here is students can edit file. This would mean that every student in your class can edit that one file. This is something I don't see used very often. The only time I really see it is if we have a project like a Google Slides presentation where I want every student to do a slide on the one presentation, then I would say that they can edit that file and say like you're assigned slide 3, you're assigned slide 4. I've seen it used in that capacity a few times. So that's when the student can edit that one file. Here, if I have 26 students in class, we're going to end up with 26 different files, but they're going to be saved into their Google Drive. The other thing that's really nice with this make a copy that I encourage you to use this when you have documents you want them editing is it does all the Google sharing settings for you. So it's going to have it be the student's document, but share it with you as the teacher. So you'll still have the rights to see that document and use that document. So it takes care of all those sharing settings instead of you having to go into Google, find your document, and then go click on all the sharing, click on the sharing pieces. You don't have to do that because Google Classroom is doing that work for you. Now it's like our other pieces have been. Who's this going to be for? Is it for multiple classes? Maybe I need both of these classes to have this assignment. Once you select more than one class, you cannot narrow it down to individual students. So you can't say this is now just for these 3 students here and these 3 students in this class. If you have more than one class selected, it's everybody. So that's one kind of small caveat to that. And then I'm going to say, how many points is this worth? This is going to be a 25-point assignment, and it's going to be due next Wednesday. I'm going to make this due next Wednesday at 9. And I want this still in my unit 1. Now here's a couple new features that Google has built within the past year or so. The ability to do a rubric for evaluation is now built into here. the first time you do this rubric, this is kind of more of an advanced feature. I'm really just going to kind of show you that it's here today. And if you want to explore it, you can. But you can go in and you can create a full rubric with all your criteria that you want to have. I would say I see this in a lot of like English language arts type classes with their writing assessments, because you can create it once and you can reuse this over and over. So you can say, this is the one rubric I use every time I do a major project or a major writing assignment. And then you can just keep adding criteria. You know, if I'm looking at my 6 traits of writing or whatever I'm looking at, I can add in all those criteria and have in all my different levels that I might want to use. This is completely an optional piece to have a rubric. If it's another assignment that you're just grading as normal, you don't have to use the rubric. The other piece that Google has added is this plagiarism checker. This is if you're doing a larger scale like writing assignment. This does a nice job of originality reporting. So it's looking out all over the web to see, are there any other versions that are typed exactly the same way? And it will tell you pretty good about if it's plagiarized or not. And there's a little learn more piece here, because what it's telling you is Google allows you to have this on 3 assignments. So you can only, and I don't know how they even picked this random number of 3 assignments. For their free education accounts, you can do it on 3 assignments. Our workaround with this is, after you've used it on one assignment, go turn it off on that one and then turn it on your next one if you want to use this feature. That has worked beautifully. So it looks at your entire Google class and says, have they used it 3 times? Well, if you just go turn it off after you've used it, it really does seem to help you out there. So I can look at my same little drop down where I can assign it. It's not letting me schedule this out, which is interesting. And I think it's because I have a due date that's so close. They want it assigned out right now. And then I can save or discard, but I'm going to assign it because now I want to double check a couple things as I've assigned my autobiography assignment. And it's quickly assigning here, hopefully. There we go. Now I can see on my calendar that the autobiography assignment is due next Wednesday. They can click on it again. And remember, all your students have access to this calendar now. And I can see here, it's gone to both of my classes. So now both of them, since I assigned it to 2, and I have 2 algebra, one is this kind of pinkish color, and there's my demo class, which is the dark blue. They both are showing that assignment. And here it's inside of Unit 1. Now, if I go back to my stream, this is where we can see that upcoming starting to be really beneficial. Remember, this is showing the next week's worth of content, what's due. So when a student logs into class right away, they see, oh, that's due, this is due, and they can kind of start to organize their content. Now you as the teacher, as the student starts to do the work and turn in their assignments, when you click into an assignment, you're gonna see how many have turned it in. I have 1 student who's been assigned this, and then how many have turned it in. And once they've started turning it in, you can go in and start grading it. Tiffany, could you go in and try and just turn it in just so I can show a couple grading pieces? So another nice piece, as a teacher here, and I have multiple classes, when I click on my 3 lines here to switch classes, I have this to review section, and this will show me every one of my assignments that's out there and what I need to review. And so as assignments get turned in, I can go in and see exactly who's turned it in, and I can go in and say, oh, I've reviewed this, or I can even click on it and start grading once I have assignments in to start grading as well. We'll come back into the grading section in a second here, because the next piece I want to show you is the ability here to add in a quiz assignment. So instead of just calling it a quiz, for some reason Google likes to use the term quiz assignment. But what this does is this uses Google Forms to create a quiz. So when I click on create and a quiz assignment, there we go. It's creating that same assignment field, but it's giving me a Google form that I can start to use to build a test. So I'm going to call this my chapter 1 test. And I have a Google form that's been started for me. And I think it's next week, I'm doing Google Docs and Forms. Forms are super powerful. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them today. But the nice piece in doing it in Google Classroom this way is that it sets everything up in the settings of your Google form to make it a test, where you can build in an answer key. Come on. And I can go in and say, oh, there's the correct answer right there. I can say, this is worth 1 point. I can weight assignments and questions as well. I can title it whatever I want. And again, I'm going to do more of this. I think it's next week I'm doing the Google Docs trainings. There we go. So now we have at least one question in our test. And in here, I'd say this is my chapter 1 test. And this is going to be worth 100 points. And it's going to be due next Friday because that's when we're going to do this. Now here's where like that scheduling can be really helpful. You're building this test. You don't want it open right now. You actually don't want it to open until Thursday or next Friday. You can schedule it out and say it's going to open at 8 a.m. next Friday. Nope, I was too quick on it here. I'm going to open it up again. There we go. Oh, good. I got some stuff turned in. Excellent. So back to my chapter test. I scheduled it and forgot to do a couple of my settings here. I can put it back into my topics. And if I have it scheduling to open up at 8 next Friday, I want it to be turned in by 3 o'clock. So now it's only open for a certain window. You can make this window as small as you want. So if it's just for your class period and you start class period at 8:45 and need it closed at 9:30, you can do that as well. And again, if you're interested in Google Forms, especially as a quiz, we can help. I can show you that next week if you attend. So now my unit 1 is really starting to grow here. I see as a teacher, this is scheduled. My students in class don't even see that test on here right now because it's not been posted at all. I might post just an announcement saying, hey, we are having a test, or let them know, but the test itself won't open and show up on their calendar until those dates that we have assigned it to post. So now we've gone in, we've started to build some classwork. We have our stream that's really flowing with content. And remember, this stream just builds as content gets posted. So that test isn't on the stream yet because it hasn't posted. The last piece that's in our classwork that I haven't talked about is material. Sometimes you just need your students to have a resource. You need them to have a material that's out there that relates to your content. This material could be, you know, your syllabus that you need to have in here. This could be, there's a lot of different types of materials you could put in here. I'm gonna say, you know, maybe it's a paper version of the rubric for writing assignments. And I'm gonna say, you know, this is, notice that since it's a material, there is no grade, but I'm gonna say I need a new topic for this that I just called documents. They just need to know these documents are here, they can get to them, and I can add in that document from my Google Drive, or maybe I have it sitting on my computer. I'll grab something random from my computer right now. There you go, intro to Google Forms. So then it would go in and it would add that. So maybe it's a video you're creating that's going to help them understand a project that's going on, or maybe it's a document you need them to have throughout the entire class. You can do that here, and it helps keep it organized in your topics. And of course, I picked a video, so now it's taken a while to go. I'll let that upload for a second. While it's uploading, are there any questions? Okay, we are nearly uploaded here. There we go. And now I can post it. So now I have a new topic here that's been created. And what you'll notice is these topics organized from top to bottom when you created them. If you need to reorganize, you can always just click on a topic and drag it where you need it. A lot of times I'll see teachers who will do this and they'll always just put the current topic on top. And maybe it's that I need the current topic and my documents on top. They can always organize it that way. But as you create, it always puts the newest things you create on top. Likewise, each individual assignment can be moved as well. So if you need a rubric on top and then the assessment or the assignment, you can always move those around. I need questions to show up first. So I can just click on it. And I'm just clicking anywhere inside that box and I can drag it. Even if I accidentally put it in the wrong topic, I can move it to a different topic. But now, as I'm in here as a teacher, I see I have one assignment turned in. So I'm going to go in and check out my autobiography assignment here. When you have all your students in here, you'll see all of them across the side on the left side here. You can always sort by last name or first name, and status is if you've graded it or not. So I have my one student in class, they've turned it in. To grade it, it's really nice. I can go in and just click on the grading. Since it's the first time in this class, they're giving me all these different pieces here. But this is the file. So it's showing me, here's a link to the file, but it's also showing me her assignment right here in class. I can go in and I can make adjustments to the grade. If I needed to, when I'm in here, I could change the total points, like, oops, this should have been worth 15 points, whatever, I can change that. But now I've given the 25 out of 25, and then I can add in a private comment. This will show the student, you know, sentence structure. Give them different comments, give them some feedback, use, you know, any feedback you want to give, you can give. You can also, this is a Google Doc that's been uploaded, so I can still use my Google Docs features that are in here. And I'm in, right now, as a teacher, I'm in a suggesting mode. So I can make comments here and I can say, I can make my comment. This is going to show up in that Google Doc. So they will see any inline comments that I have. So maybe it's a rough draft they're working on or something. I can make those adjustments in here. So I can post this comment. Here's a comment I made. The student can reply to these comments when they go into their grades as well. So if you ask them a question, they can go in and reply. And then I can return this to my student. So once I've returned it, my student can open that up in that same assignments window, and they will see that they have gotten their 25 out of 25, and they'll see any comments that have been made. Now these comments here live inside of that Google Doc, so they can always open that Google Doc back up and see, I know they gave me feedback on this assignment. What did they say last time so I can make it better this time? Because that's what every student does, right? They always remember all your feedback so they can make it better next time. Something like that. So now I have the grading window in Classroom that's been opened up.
You always did that, right, Robbie?
Oh, always.
Okay, all right, just checking.
Yeah, always. You were my English teacher. So we have this, and you'll notice when you go to grading, it does open a new tab here. So I still have my Google Classroom, and it's opened a new tab for this grading window. Now, if I had the rubric piece built in, it would have my rubric on the side, and I would just simply click the boxes of where the rubric pieces that I need to connect in were. So I could just click all of those. But I've returned it back to my student now. I'm gonna close this, and I can see like my to-do list is done. All of my students, there's no more to turn in that I need to grade. Everyone's done it, and I've graded the one that's out there. And if I go to my to review section here, I can see what's happening in all my assignments here. So I can go in at all times and see that. And then I can always go, the last of these 4 tabs that we have here are the grades. So if I want to see an overall view of all of my students' grades, if I want to see what's missing or late, I can come into this grade area and see that. As things are missing or past the due date, you'll see different colors happening. It'll be red or yellow to indicate that it's either late or missing. So you'll start to see those little colors that show up as we move through your content as well. And I would just always remember to tell your students that these grades are indicative of what's happening on Google Classroom, not their overall grade. Because they'll go in, they can see grades as well, but just their grade. Oops. And on any of these, I can click on it and I can go in and see their submission again. So I can jump in if I'm during conferences and I want to have a student open and I want to say, here's some of the work that they've been producing. I can go in and just open all those submissions straight from here. And then there's these 3 dots in Google are always something to help you out. But if I go into like this, I can always go back and edit my assignment, or I can click on the assignment itself and it will bring into that part of the grade book to assign. The other thing that can be really nice, especially as you're transferring grades over into your grade book, is the ability when you open up an assignment, you can copy these grades into Google Sheets or download them in a file that would open in Google Sheets or in Excel. So if you copy those grades into Google Sheets, I now have a Google Sheets version of a grade book. So I can just have this either printed out or alongside my one window, and then my grade book opened up that I'm going to be entering those grades in right next to it. So it's really nice, and I think it creates a pretty nice little Google Sheet here of all of your grades. That is a copy, it's not a flowing document. So it does not, like, as a new assignment goes in, it doesn't build that. It copies what your grade book is at this current point in time. So I have done a lot of talking at you right now, but I've really kind of looked at this whole big idea of all the things we can do inside of Google Classroom. Are there any questions as we move forward here? Well, what I'd encourage you to do is start creating a classroom. Get, whether it's however many sections you teach or however you want to do this, you can start creating a classroom. Remember, if you teach like 3 sections of a class, Algebra 1, you can either create 3 separate Google Classrooms, or you can create one Google Classroom with all of your students in it. I like to create 3 separate ones because I like to keep my attendance, like my rosters, cleaned up a little bit more and just copy assignments in there. The one thing I didn't talk about in Classwork was this reuse post. If you click on reuse post, this will look at all of the posts and assignments that you have in all of your courses. It might not show me a lot right now because I don't have much, and I can bring that in. I don't know why it's not loading right now, but this allows me to reuse content that I've used. Maybe I did it in another Laurel, I'm letting this load and I'm reading Laurel's question here. In what way do you want to link the classroom to another teacher's?
Well, I'm the library. So if I have all this library links, my library page, all of the login info, are they able to, I mean, do I have to go in and enter kids or have them enter it separately, or can I just kind of piggyback off of other teachers' classrooms?
That is up to how you'd want to do it, I guess. So you could have like a section in every teacher's classroom. If I were you, I would create one classroom and send that join code to the teachers. So the teachers can just say, hey, make sure to join the libraries class, and here's their code to get into that class. So then you're not having to go put in every student in the building, but they can go in and the students can have that class, or even have that, you know, on a card in the library. Hey, you want to know more resources? Get into Classroom and see what we have to offer.
Okay.
Lori, that I can see that being a great way, especially on that stream page, if you've got something coming up that you can shoot out an announcement to kids too. If you had just a library class, and you could decide which kids you wanted announcements to go to directly from the classroom, I think there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, a couple last things I'll leave you with then. So I went back to my main list of all my classes. This is how your students would see it as well. And I can see just a quick glance over my classes, like, oh, next Wednesday there's 2 assignments due, and Monday I've got this going on. So it shows me a nice overview from this page. The thing you're gonna wanna do with, especially depending on how many classes you set up, these 3 lines here, wherever you are in Google Classroom, click on those in the upper left and click on settings. By default, you're gonna get an email for everything that happens in your class right now. Whether, so right now, email notifications is on. And then what happens is if somebody comments on a post, if somebody mentions me, everything gets sent to me. I can go in and I can modify these notifications. I can even say, you know, maybe I have a club class that I don't need any notifications for. I can turn a whole class off. But right now, I would get an email for everything. So like when Tiffany submitted that assignment, or she put in a comment here, I got an email that she put in a comment. Luckily, I don't get in any email when they submit work. That used to be a feature where you get an email every time any student submitted an assignment. They've turned that off. But what you do have is late submissions. So you've been waiting on a kid to submit it, or you have given a student their assignment back to rewrite it and resubmit. You can decide what you want to get email notifications of and what you don't want to. Right now, like there was a comment on here. I would probably, as a teacher, I'd probably turn off comments because I'm going to be in my class enough to know that they've commented on that post. And I don't need an email when I've asked like every student to make a comment on the post. But that's simply just up to how you want it to be. So those settings can be helpful. And remember, we're trying to, with all of Google Classroom, to me, it's about helping the students know where their content is and be able to really work with your students to help them learn some of these skills about checking their calendar, checking their, checking what's going on for the day. We've talked to a lot of teachers in the past couple of weeks about this whole idea of, when I get to work in the morning, the first thing I do is I check my email. Maybe that's a skill we need to have all of our students doing. When they get to school in the morning, first thing they should do is get into Classroom and see what's going on today. Those types of skills we can start to build, and those habits that we can build for our students. So with that, I have kept you an hour. I am a resource at all times for you. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Derek at Gangwish as well. I know he's around your district more than I am. We are here to help, though. We are always here to, as you're building and saying, how did you do that? Reach out. I'm back to working full-time in the office, so I'm here to help whenever you need it. And good luck with Google Classroom, and let me know how I can help you.
Thanks a million, Robbie. Appreciate it very much. And